How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. Delighted to have you with me. I would give you the full number, but there is no point because I don't have a call screener today, and it's okay. Program Directors of America rejoice. But text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to bring your attention to a ProPublica story of all things. You know, the left-wing site that did the stories harassing Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. It's not just a ProPublica story. It is a ProPublica Oregon Public Broadcasting joint project. This is so delightful. In the 1970s, out in Oregon, the political left started passing new regulations to make it virtually impossible to build nuclear power in Oregon. And now conservatives are using it against the left, and the left is outraged. So let's just listen to this story here. During the outcry against nuclear power in the 1970s, liberal Oregon lawmakers hatched a plan to slow an industry that was just getting started. They created a burdensome process that gave the public increased say over where nuclear power plants could be built. And the leading anti-nuclear activists of the day used appeal after appeal to delay proposed nuclear plants to death. It had a huge impact. Oregon's first commercial nuclear plant, the one that spurred lawmakers into action, was also the state's last. What those lawmakers didn't plan for was that 50 years later, an Oregon citizen activist would use the same bureaucracy to hinder some of the very energy products today's liberals want: wind farms and new high-voltage lines needed to support them. They didn't plan for Irene Gilbert. She is the hero of this story they're trying to vilify. The 76-year-old retired state employee, former gun store owner, and avid elk hunter from La Grande, Oregon, is on a mission to keep turbines and transmission towers from blighting the rural landscape. She's filed more challenges to energy projects, 15 in all, including lawsuits, than anyone in the state. She says she kind of has a reputation. Renewable energy advocates treat activists like Gilbert as relentless gadflies who need to be stopped for the good of the planet. They say Oregon's slow process for approving energy projects with its endless appeals is one reason the state ranks near last in the country for green energy growth. Democratic leaders up and down the West Coast are reckoning with liberal policies of the past that they say clash with today's progressive agenda. In California, for example, Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed a rollback of environmental review laws to expedite construction of affordable housing. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has pushed to roll back her state's land use restrictions for the same reason. But Oregon's leaders have been far less aggressive in confronting the historical artifacts that critics say hold green energy back. One, the Depression vintage federal agency that runs most of the Northwest power grid, which has set a sluggish pace for upgrades. The other, the energy siting system Oregon created long ago for nuclear power. In the past 5 years, the Oregon legislature has repeatedly rejected or watered down bills to streamline permitting for energy projects. The efforts included legislation supported by renewable advocates, as well as farming and land conservation groups, both of which share Gilbert's concerns about development in rural spaces. In response to questions from Oregon Public Broadcasting and ProPublica, the governor's office acknowledged existing significant impediments. Gilbert was retired from a career in state government, was running the Oregon Trail Trader gun shop with her partner in La Grande when she first heard about the Antelope Ridge wind farm. It was 2009 and only a handful of wind farms existed, but an energy company wanted to erect 180 turbines. Energy infrastructure was a sore spot for Gilbert. Decades ago, she married into a ranching and timber family, and a chunk of the forest she owned was bulldozed for transmission lines. She had a stark memory of how quickly a business can erase a beloved part of rural Oregon. Now that she's older, she wanted to give back, and she was motivated to help farmers and others protect their land. And so she keeps speaking against it, and she keeps writing letters, and she keeps suing. They want you to know, by the way, she's a committed Republican. But they say she's not opposed to clean energy. She has a cabin with rooftop solar panels. She said she doesn't believe in the need for large-scale solar, but she did support a solar farm in the Columbia River Gorge after developers listened to public input and took steps to reduce the impact. Fuji Creeder, a liberal Democrat from New York, is friends with Gilbert, and they are campaigning against the transmission lines. They're hippie rednecks and environmentalists, they say, and the left is outraged. This is hilarious. So now, I've read you from a piece of this article. Now let me read you from Alex Stapp, who is a leader at IFP, a think tank for accelerated scientific progress. A single NIMBY retiree can spend all her time suing to block wind and transmission projects from being built. Activists are using the rules built to block nuclear power in the 70s. Ms. Gilbert has filed more lawsuits against clean energy products than anyone else in her state. And while she doesn't always win, that's the point. The process is the punishment. Now, I told y'all that on Friday, didn't I? When the left keeps suing the nuns or keeps suing Jack Phillips, it's Sisyphean punishment for them. They roll the rock all the way to the hill, they win, and the left shoves the rock down the hill and says, do it again. Irene Gilbert is doing it to the left. And so this guy laments, say goodbye to your net zero goals if you make it this easy for one person to block clean energy products. It's the litigation doom loop. It's not about prevailing in court. It's about inflicting large costs on developers and creating massive uncertainty about where the legal challenge will end. Our system makes it so easy for even just a single person to do this. The system is extremely biased towards people with too much time on their hands. And it's another direct result of this kind of bad faith litigation. Planning documents get longer and longer in order to head off the lawsuits. It's why it can't be said enough. These people often have insane views, and we can't let them dictate our future. She claims she's doing it because the U.S. might not have enough land to grow food. Y'all, this is hilarious. The left is upset at a retiree doing what the left does because she's doing it against them. She's essentially doing what Chris Rufo has made a habit of. She's using the left's systems they built to advance their agenda against themselves. Chris Rufo, you will recall, waged the war against critical theory and against discrimination, and now he's been blocked by The New Yorker. He's blocked by The New Yorker because it turns out that one of the star readers or writers of The New Yorker is a serious racist. What's funny is that David Rimnick, back in 2020, after the George Floyd stuff, wrote a piece called Getting White People to Talk About Racism. And they literally now have a writer on their payroll who believes that white people are genetically evil animals responsible for life, syphilis, and planet destruction. And the people at The New Yorker won't say anything. And by the way, it turns out as well that at The New Yorker, they haven't had a white man write a fiction submission in more than a decade, it seems. The New Yorker writer Doreen St. Felix has said some really, really wackadoo things on race. And decades-old tweets, she was exposed for her racism. She has deleted her Twitter account now, but not before people screenshotted the tweets. But here's the thing. They were like, well, her tweets are a decade old. Yes, and you know I'm a big defender of people who a decade ago said things they don't believe now, except St. Felix has for years believed these things. To be honest, whiteness fills me with a lot of hate. Can't really be a prude about it anymore. I'm often angry and hateful about it, she wrote in 2015. But here's the problem. It's now 2025, and she still believes a lot of the things that she said in 2015. And Rufo's just using the systems against the left. The left came after, remember the kid, he was the football player, got the scholarship, and they found out like in 2010 he used a gay slur when he was like a 13-year-old in college, and they demanded that his college scholarship be revoked because he attacked someone and he was he called things gay and stuff like that. And they wanted to punish the kid. He gets a major college scholarship. He turns into a football star, and the left goes out to get him. They go after all sorts of people on the right for tweets they said when they were 5. This woman in 2015 said she hates white people, that white people are responsible for lice and syphilis and destroying the planet and all sorts of stuff. They give her a cushy job at the New Yorker, where every indication is she still maintains her deeply racist beliefs. What's so interesting is that they can't get anyone at the New Yorker to affirm her views or say anything nice about her. They just say, well, her tweets are old. Her tweets are old. She has views that are even now unacceptable by the modern mainstream left. Modern mainstream left may be sympathetic to her views, but they certainly don't advance them publicly, and yet here she is with a cushy position at the New Yorker. All Chris Rufo is doing is getting the left to play by their same rules, same standards. It's a very, very interesting activity he's been engaged in. And now here comes this environmentalist in Oregon who's doing the same thing, just using the left's tools, using the left, and they can't handle it when it's done against them. They do not like it when it's done against them. And the acknowledgement is that, yes, the process is the punishment. The process is the punishment, and that's something that comes from Marxist political theory. I told you that on Friday. We spent an entire segment on this on Friday on how the attacks on the nuns in Pennsylvania by Josh Shapiro. They keep winning in the Supreme Court, and yet they're forced to stay in court to advance their wins. It is the process being the punishment. It's like Jack Phillips in Colorado, the baker who doesn't want to bake cakes for trans ceremonies or for gay weddings. They keep suing him and suing him and suing him, and he keeps winning and winning and winning. The process is the punishment. It is a Marxist ideology, and now the left can't take it that people on the right have figured out how to do the same thing to the left. They're deeply unhappy with it. They say the views are crazy. In Oregon now, fights against energy and transmission projects have been a mainstay for Gilbert for more than a decade. She said she sometimes awakens in the middle of the night, struck by an idea about how a rule or a statute might be of use. Most of the people in Stop B2H believe we need more energy, and I agree we need more energy, but we cannot provide the energy needs of this country or this state by taking all the farmland. There's a point where we aren't going to have the land needed to produce food. When Gilbert heard about a bill to upend her main means of objecting, she did not panic. She did what she's always done. She spoke up. On a recent May afternoon in Salem, Gilbert sat on a window bench outside a Capitol hearing room where she's testified against the bill that would get rid of the restrictions the progressives put in place. I remember you, exclaimed Gilbert State Representative, Republican Bobby Levy. You're one of the smartest people. You do your research. Levy said she was working to oppose the bill. Gamba, in the end, was disappointed with what the legislature was able to pass after setting out to overhaul Oregon's energy siting bureaucracy. He said the scale-back legislation dabbled at the edges. It might shave 10% off approval time for green energy. What did survive was the effort to move lawsuits filed by people like Gilbert directly to the Oregon Supreme Court. Gilbert was dismayed to lose the chance to build a case over time, but it won't stop her. Now that the Boardman to Hemingway line is actually getting built, Gilbert said it'll bring a rash of new applications from people seeking to build wind and solar farms along the power line's route, and she'll be there to file the challenges. She says if nothing else, she's about to be really busy. She will be. and she will be doing to the left exactly what the left does to everyone else, and they sure hate it when you play by their rules. Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here. Let's jump over to the White House and see there's a, press conference going on now with the president and Zelensky. If I can pull it up on my machine here.
Mr. President, can you tell us about your conversations with European leaders and what they need to see to support an end to the war?
Yeah, well, we're going to be meeting with a great representative group and 7 very powerful, very big countries and great people, all friends of mine and friends of yours. And we're going to have some suggestions made. They want to see peace. They would like to see peace.
President, you said last
in
night
the red, in the red.
President Trump, do you think it's fair to for Ukraine and for Russia to achieve a lasting and durable peace if Ukraine cedes its territories that Russia hasn't yet conquered? Do you think it's a fair peace for Ukraine?
We're going to have a lasting peace. Just to answer the first part of your question, we're going to have a lasting peace. I hope it's going to be immediately. I hope it doesn't have to go on. And I think people of the whole world is going to be very happy when that's announced.
Mr. President, you posted on social media, Mr. President, a very touching letter from the First Lady, and the letter was hand-delivered to President Putin, and it calls for an end to the war, essentially, because of the children and the children's future. Why did the First Lady feel that letter was necessary? Was it because she believes that Mr. Putin is the aggressor in the war? Is a similar letter being hand-delivered to President Zelensky?
So the First Lady felt very strongly. She's watched the same thing that you watch and that I watch. I see things that you don't get to see, and it's horrible. But when she's got a great love of children, she has a wonderful son that she loves, probably more than anybody, including me. I hate to say it, but she loves her son. She loves children. And she hates to see something like this happening.
And she's also from an Eastern Bloc country and doesn't like the Soviets or the Russians because of the communist treatment of her and her family. So there's that, too. When we come back, if this is still going on, I'll bring it back up for us. Right now, I got to tell you about Vision Computers. If you've got managed IT for your company and your employees are having to send email tickets in and maybe wait 24 hours for a response or something, they could get a phone number to call with Vision, where 15 seconds or less, somebody answers the phone and gets them back up and running. They can even remote in and take care of the computers. Vision Computers is world-class service. They can save you some money, and here's the thing, they can increase your uptime. And your employees don't have to try to type in an email and explain what's going on when they don't know. They get on the phone with someone from Vision who knows computers. 15 seconds or less, they answer the phone. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Or go to visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You might save some money. And by the way, if you're in the gig economy and you need Vision while you're sitting at the coffee shop working on your laptop and you need someone who's always there to help, they can help you too. Just $199 a year per computer. Visioncomputers.com or 404-COMPUTE. Call Vision. Let them help you with all of your computer needs. Tell them Eric sent you. Visioncomputers.com. Happening right now, the president and Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office. They're taking questions from the press. Let's go back to it.
Long-term, long-running wars. I didn't do any ceasefires. Would I like the concept. You know, I like the concept of a ceasefire for one reason, because you'd stop killing people immediately, as opposed to in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it takes. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight. I wish they could stop. I'd like them to stop. But strategically, that could be a disadvantage for one side or the other. But all of these deals I made without even the mention of the words ceasefire.
Can you explain the decision to offer Ukraine Article 5-like security guarantees, but stop short of pushing for their full membership?
Yeah, well, we haven't done anything on that yet. If you look back and you go back long before President Putin, it was always a statement that they would never allow Ukraine into NATO. So that was a statement that was made, but we haven't discussed any of that yet. We're going to be discussing it today. But we will give them very good protection, very good security. That's part of it. And the people that are waiting for us, I think they're very like-minded. They want to help out all.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President
Are you
Trump.
disappointed there's no
The
ceasefire,
United
Mr.
States,
President?
the United States has already given hundreds of billions of dollars to this war effort in Ukraine. At best, it is a stalemate, and the killing continues.
This is Peter Ducey.
So, President Trump, how much more is the United States willing to give Ukraine? And President Zelensky, how much more do you want?
Well, I'll start off just by saying we're not giving anything now. We're selling weapons. This is something before, I guess the number is well over $300 billion. That was under Joe Biden, a corrupt politician, not a smart man, never was. By the way, go back 40 years, he was not a smart man 40 years ago either, but now he's in particular bad. This was done by a corrupt administration that shouldn't have been in, and frankly, if the right results of the election were given, if I were president, this war would have never taken place, and he would have been very happy because he would have liked to have seen. I mean, they went through hell. He went through hell. This war would have never happened, and the people that were killed, a couple of million people, a lot of people with soldiers and everything else, and the people that have been displaced and forced into other areas and other countries because of what's happened, none of that would have happened. And I'm just saying that he was a horrible president, whether it was the borders or this. He was just a horrible, corrupt president.
Mr. President,
I can. Thank you so much. So first of all, we have possibility now to buy weapon from the United States. We are thankful for this program and this opportunity. We are thankful for Europe. They pay for this. And through NATO program, for example, Pearl and etc., we have some programs where we can have some money to finance this. And this is a part, I think, it's not a part for the war and to defend us. It also will be a part for security guarantees, to strengthen our army, to rearm Ukrainian army. This is very, very important. And it depends how much money we need to rearm. For example, the question of air defense, we spoke about it with President Trump, and I'm happy that we have now bilateral decisions and we work on it with production, American production. Nobody in Europe has so many air defense like Patriots, for example. We need it very much, and this is also about defending.
I think the good news, we make the best military equipment in the world by far. You mentioned the Patriots. How good are they?
Systems.
We have systems, they're literally 100% foolproof, and it's really like shooting two bullets, two bullets hitting each other in the air in a space like this. The chance is 100%. It's 99 to 100%. So we sell the equipment to NATO, and NATO does what, I don't know what the arrangement is that you have with, but I know that they want you to have the equipment. And we're getting the best equipment in the world, but they pay us for the equipment. Under Biden, it was just crazy what was going on. I believe the number is over 300. I think it could be $350 billion worth of equipment and money and everything else. And we've made more progress in settling this war in the last 2 months than they made in 4 years. This should have been settled a long time ago, but it should have never happened. Yeah, please.
Real quickly,
you pushed out on social media.
Brian, go first.
You pushed out on social media about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you expand on that and how important
Well, that's a very off-topic, just really quickly. Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change in the machines.
Really is off topic when you got the
for
president of
all of the money
Ukraine there. I mean, if you're unfamiliar with this, the president this morning tweeted that he wants states to get rid of mail-in ballots, that they need to at the federal level. He's going to try to pass a law in Congress. This comes after a candidate in Minneapolis was seen doing ballot harvesting, piling a bunch of, but here's the catch. In Minneapolis, my understanding is it's actually legal to do that, where you can go out and collect everybody's ballots and shove them in. The guy wound up winning this election by 76 votes in Minneapolis.
Very important. Paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough and stop it, because the Democrats want it. It's the only way they can get elected. Because with men and women's sports and with transgender for everybody and open borders and all of the horrible things, and now the new thing is they love crime. They're fighting me on the fact that I've made Washington, D.C. safe. We're not going to get mugged, beaten up, or killed like all the people you've been watching get so badly hurt. I'm glad, I hate to take your time with this, but I'm glad you asked me that question. We're going to stop mail-in ballots because it's corrupt. You know, when you go to a voting booth and you do it the right way and you go to a state that runs it properly, you go in, they even ask me. They asked me for my license plate, for identity. I said, I don't know if I have it. They said, sir, you have to have it. I was very impressed, actually. But it's very hard to cheat with mail-in voting. As you know what happens in California, it's so corrupt, where some people get 5, 6, 7 ballots delivered to them. Now, we got to stop mail-in voting, and the Republicans have to lead the charge. The Democrats want it because they have horrible policy. If you have mail-in voting, you're not going to have many Democrats get elected. That's bigger than anything having to do with redistricting, believe me. And the Republicans have to get smart. We're not going to have a country. I said for a long time at rallies, you need borders and you need free and fair elections. Those two things, otherwise you don't have. We have strong borders now. In 90 days, Mr. President, we didn't have 1, 0, 0, and 3 months. Not one person came in illegally into our country. In fact, even I find that hard to believe, but it's run by a little bit of a liberal group that put out the numbers, so I guess it's, but 0, 0, and 0. You go back a year ago, 2 years ago, 3, millions of people poured into our country. It was terrible. Thank you very much.
All right, let's listen to him when we get back on topic.
Guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything. And really, it includes two parts. First, strong Ukrainian army. That's what I began to discuss with your colleagues. And it's a lot about weapon and people and training missions and intelligence. And second, we will discuss with our partners. It depends on the big countries, on the United States, on a lot of our friends.
And Mr. President, are you willing to commit American troops to that NATO-like protection in order to get President Zelensky to a deal today?
Well, I don't know if you define it that way, but NATO-like, I mean, we have people waiting in another room right now. They're all here from Europe, biggest people in Europe, and they want to give protection. They feel very strongly about it, and we'll help them out with that. I think it's very important. I think it's very important to get the deal done.
All right, that's the President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, and you hear the president say that they're down with the security guarantees. They're actually willing to do security guarantees backed by the United States to be able to help the Ukrainian people. That probably means stockpiling American weapons, but European troops on the ground, so not NATO. They're being very, very cautious here about saying it's not going to be NATO because they don't want to convey, but essentially it is NATO. I mean, NATO is buying the arms from the United States and sending them into Ukraine. I suspect what they mean by not NATO is it's not going to be American troops. So it'll be every member of NATO except probably the U.S. and Canada, but maybe Canada will go along with it. It'll definitely be a European Union force inside Ukraine. And it sounds like if there are the security guarantees, you may get some wobbling commitment from Ukraine on acknowledging that they've got to give up some land. The president and the European leaders will be meeting here shortly in the White House. I'm going to keep my eye on this, disrupt whatever the show is today, because I think it's probably more important that we hear out what's going on inside the White House with the European leaders. Now, here's the thing as well. Some of the European leaders, they've been a little bit seething behind the scenes about President Trump, his summit with Vladimir Putin, his quest to get peace and the like, and it's something the president wants to avoid is being seen as a flunky for Putin. He doesn't want people to buy into the left-wing talking point against him. So he wants to stand with European leaders, and the European leaders know that if they come out and blast the president as giving too much to Putin, that gives them some little bit of leverage that they want on Donald Trump, and he doesn't want to give them any leverage at all. It is, by the way, a myth. It is a myth of the broken left that Trump is a flunky for Putin. But he doesn't want to give oxygen to it. He does want peace in Ukraine. At this point, my suspicion, and I have no inside knowledge on this one, but my suspicion, just based on prior statements made, is the European leaders are going to want to get Zelensky in the room with them and say, guy, you're not getting your whole country back. It's not going to happen. So what can we give you with what you have left to make sure the Russians don't take more? Because that's the underlying fear here, is that the Russians will continue to try to take Ukrainian land. They'll have a peace, they'll recover their soldiers, they'll build back up, and they'll reinvade. It's something everyone wants to make sure doesn't happen. And it's something that we can make sure doesn't happen if we stand with the Europeans on this, get Ukraine to give up some of their land to the Russians that the Russians already have, and then stockpile weapons and soldiers to make it very, very painful if the Russians dare to try again. I mean, landmine that territory so they can't cross. Do whatever can be done to make sure the Russians can't invade. It's possible if there's a will to do it. Parents and grandparents, listen up. Old Glory Bank knows that if we want to protect the future economic strength of our nation, it starts with teaching our kids how to manage money. Right now, most schools aren't teaching budgeting, managing credit, or even how to reconcile a bank account. And yeah, Gen Z, these are all things you need to learn. The good news is kids do want to learn it. My kids ask questions about it all the time. My son, now in 11th grade, wants to do the Dave Ramsey program. The kids want to be smart and independent. Old Glory Bank is starting a free series of financial literacy resources for high school and college students to help them build strong money habits early and make smart choices for life. So parents and grandparents, these resources are for you too. Use them at the dinner table as part of homeschool, connect and pass along real-world wisdom on finances. Go to oldglorybank.com/smart today. Help build the next generation of money-smart Americans. oldglorybank.com/smart. It's a financial literacy program you can use as part of a curriculum or just part of conversations with your kids to help them start learning good financial sense. oldglorybank.com/smart. Go today, get your kids smarter about their finances, how to deal with money, handle money, get money, and not lose money. oldglorybank.com/smart. Start today with oldglorybank.com. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Donald Trump is saying that he's going to put Vladimir Zelensky in a good position and take care of the Ukrainian people, different from what you would have been hearing this morning on MSNBC and elsewhere, claiming he was doing Vladimir Putin's work. The level of brokenness you get on TV now based on which camp you're in, it's kind of pathetic to see. I want to turn your attention to a story that the BBC and other international news ran, that Israel killed another Gazan. There were even pictures of the lady, yet again, that Israel killed this woman from Gaza, that she died of starvation. The BBC ran the story. It's now retracted. Yet again, it's funny how it always happens. And it's always making Israel look bad. You see, there's a woman from Gaza who was suffering from leukemia, and the Israelis evacuated her to a hospital in Italy for medical treatment, and she died there of a heart attack. But the British Broadcasting Corporation and other media outlets ran it as another starving Gazan dies at Israel's hands. The Israelis rescued her and got her medical attention, and she died battling leukemia. It's just, when the media keeps making the same mistakes over and over, and it's always one side that's on the downside of the mistakes, that's one of the clear signs of bias. Remember the starving kid? The Free Press actually has a story today highlighting how You how you keep seeing the same child in images over and over again about the Israeli starving kids. And, well, it's the same kid, and the kid was actually had a birth defect, wasn't starved to death, had a serious birth defect. It's just amazing how they do that. By the way, I want to shut down one talking point that's creeping up on the right on Ukraine. I see it being circulated right now. Zelensky in the White House says during a war you can't have elections. It's actually in the Ukrainian constitution, folks. So please stop circulating this talking point on the right. You got 15% of population under occupation. You've got random drone and missile strikes on populated areas in Ukraine. And the Ukrainian constitution says that during invasion, elections cease. The government in power stays until the war is over. So I'm sorry you want Ukraine to have elections, but that's actually what Vladimir Putin wants. Vladimir Putin wants elections in Ukraine, so all he has to do is target election precincts and kill all the people standing in line to vote. This isn't rocket science here. There actually are legit points to be made here. The attacking Zelensky for saying there's no election, that's actually a Russian-based talking point. It literally was seeded by Russian propaganda. We know this. Remember, there was that group in Canada that ran social media campaigns, and the Russians were giving them money to run and launder campaigns and keep the Russian fingerprints off of it. And one of the talking points was about Ukraine having elections. So please stop. Please stop. When we come back, we got to get into, of all things, eugenics, because remember the meltdown about Sydney Sweeney and the jeans ad for American Outfitters? Ross Douthat did an interview with a woman in charge of a company in California that literally is engaged in eugenics practices. And the very same progressives who were melting down about the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad are very, 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 very silent about actual eugenics. This company wants to help parents create designer babies through genetic programming and also help people eradicate children with Down syndrome, among other things. It's grotesque. And the silence from the left is very, very telling. We'll also keep an eye on the White House and any developments there. We'll bring it to you as it's happening live right now.